afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Lifestyle Business. I'm Chris.
And I'm Ann, and we are so happy to be coming back to you from our studio here in Northern California. It's good to be home.
Finally.
It's been 2 months.
After being all over the place.
We've been on the road. According to the insurance company, we've been on the road a little too much. But, we are back. The house is still standing, and it feels pretty good.
Yeah, sure does.
A little smoky. We're a little still raspy in our throats from being back and in the house, but that's okay. We'll get through it. And definitely in much better shape than many of the folks on our road. So we are feeling lucky. We're feeling happy to be back in the great state of California. And we're happy to be here with Ari Rabban, who is the co-founder and CEO of VOIP business phone service, phone.com. Mm-hmm. And he comes to us from our other favorite great state of New Jersey on the East Coast. And we're so excited to have Ari. He was one of we always talk about first believers here at Launch Pad, and Ari was one of our first believers in Launch Pad Newark. And I think we count on him to not only be a founding member, but really a culture carrier for our location there and a stalwart in our community and someone that we really are privileged to have in our space. Right?
Exactly.
Is that nice?
And we are also a very happy phone.com customer.
We are a phone.com customer. And one of the things we're going to be talking to Ari about is what phone.com has been up to. But also, I think it's a great service and one in this increasingly remote world that is very important as we become untethered to our offices and our desks. We can also be untethered to the phone. I mean, who actually has a landline anymore, really? I bet Ari knows the numbers behind that. So anyway, we'll catch up with him in a second. But I know everybody is on the edge of their seat.
Check something. I just got to check Twitter here.
Refresh. It has been a nail-biting couple days, and I think if you guys remember back to the last show, our guest said, watch Florida. So we all watched Florida, and then we were like, oh, that meant nothing. So we are on the tip of our toes, and we know that it is very stressful, and we appreciate you tuning in, even though you're probably tuned into other things like Twitter and, surprisingly, Fox News. So that's been kind of cool. Although, doesn't it feel like you just want this election to be over, whatever the outcome?
I mean, that's what you and I have been talking a lot about, and I've had some calls with other people. I think everybody is ready to move on. Like 2021 can't get here soon enough.
Can we get back to work?
We've been having fun conversations with our team and with members about people obviously are coming back into the Launchpad locations and the spaces safely, of course, and we're being careful about that. But we're starting to think about expanding, more programming, probably virtual, at least at first, like we're doing right now. But back to setting some goals, right?
Yeah.
We've been living moment to moment from, at least for us, the wildfires to the election to COVID. It's just all quarterly planning, all big objectives sort of went out the window at the beginning of the year. And it just feels like we're ready to get back to that.
And we were just having this conversation with another entrepreneur who had just started a business. Of course, great timing, right? You've got to start a business, but the show must go on. And you're like, wait, by all measures, normal measures, it's frustrating because you can't do all the things that you want to do, and the business doesn't take off in those first early months, and it just feels like a slog, and you're like, well, welcome to 2020. All big objectives, challenging. Yeah. Sometimes some of them out of the window. And so it's a hard environment, but at the same time,
it's just get on with it. We keep telling people we're just cockroaches, right? Just stay alive, be here. In fact, we got a nice email from an investor or somebody who was a potential investor back when we were fundraising. That seems like years ago, maybe a year ago, before everything kind of shut down. But
it was good. I like to call these emails knock, knock, knock. are you guys still alive? And we were, and we talked about some of the wins and the loses in the portfolio and how we're doing. And by the way, Newark continues to still be our shining star. Thank God for you, Newark. But we gave him a quick download, and he came back and was like, well, that is, resilience. And I think resilience is the name of the game. And we're like, we will survive.
Yeah.
But now I'm tired of surviving. I want to get back to thriving. Let's thrive, guys. Let's do some thriving. Anyway, so let's get on.
Thriving. Let's talk about a couple members who are thriving.
Woo! Yeah.
Some member magic news.
First up, 2 new members in Newark.
Awesome.
Yes. So we are welcoming Trailblazers Church, led by Dr. Sean Branahan.
All right. Welcome, Dr. Sean. And we also welcome back Stanley LaRoche to our space. Stanley's a former host who has joined us back as a member, and he leads an organization called Art for Change, which is awesome because I think having the creative community in Launchpad locations is really important. So Art for Change provides support services and access to spaces for creatives within Newark's artistic community.
Yeah, and that's great. And for those of you in Newark, obviously you know our host program well, but our host program is a great opportunity for us to help aspiring entrepreneurs and creatives get access to our space and access to folks like Ari, and kind of get inspired around the sort of on-ramp to entrepreneurship, and a way for us to do an exchange where they get some space and some support, and then they help us out by creating activity and events and support for our spaces. And so it's really cool when we see somebody start off as a host and then graduate to a member and then graduate to a perm desk and graduate to an office. And then soon they're going to be knocking on Ari's door and saying, I need to have your custom build out for me and all my engineers. That's a great growth pattern.
And we've had a lot of great growth out of Newark and all the spaces. I mean, graduating into sometimes working for us as a community manager or an operations manager.
Like David.
Also our former community manager, we've talked about this, but Dio has rejoined us as our VP of operations across the company now.
Which everyone should rest assured, we're not the only ones in charge anymore. Thank God for freaking Dio.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on to Ari. He's been waiting patiently for us. From studying law at Tel Aviv University to an MBA from the Tepper School of Business and Entrepreneurship in Newark, New Jersey's Ari Rabban has worn a variety of hats across his professional journey. He's here today to share many of the secrets of his success and give us a take on what traits make for a successful founder based on his many years of experience as a mentor to entrepreneurs over the last 10 years. Ari, it's great to see you in fake life.
Sort of person, yeah.
Newark.
This is about as close as we get in 2020, I guess.
How are you doing?
I learned the phrase COVID adjusted, right? So great COVID adjusted.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Well, I mean, the cool thing for you is you've been kind of leading the charge around remote work and the future of work for many years. And we often call it sort of like building that muscle. So I'm sure when COVID hit, you still had some adjustment to do, but at least Phone.com as a company was in training for that very event.
Yeah, it's COVID didn't hurt us too much, business-wise. Let's just say that, and maybe even helped us a little bit. But I don't like to use those phrases. We're certainly not the Zoom and the technology aspect, but that's what we do, and we work with small businesses, and of course any size business that went to work from home, and that's what we make it easier to do. So business continued and grew, and our employees and the way we were set up. We did a test in February when we knew it might happen. It was no problem. We found out that I think 3-4 folks needed a monitor or another microphone or something that didn't work. We shipped it out, and then that was, I think, on a Wednesday, and then the following Monday we officially started working from home, and really no hiccup in operations. But I gotta say, it's people, and I spent the last what is it now, 9 months, a lot of focus on our team, on our people, and everybody has a story, everybody has a situation, the anxiety, everything, whatever it is. But we transitioned well. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to dig in on that because I think, you're right, which is you had your setup, right? Which is you had kind of like a plan and the infrastructure in place to be able to support the technical aspects of it. But so much relies on kind of creating and fostering culture and support for your employees. So what have you seen to be a useful technique in kind of supporting and creating that level of community and culture for them?
Yeah. So of course, and we're all in this. The service that you guys provide was so important for us, certainly in New Jersey, right? Because that's what we're all about, that collaboration and that atmosphere. But obviously, when we couldn't do that, and we can't really interact with others outside of our own company, a customer call isn't the same. Then we had to just move to capabilities that are not unique. We didn't use Zoom because we have our own service, but other tools that allow collaboration and coming up with ideas for some social activities online, and certainly in the first 2-3 months, maybe just a lot of calming down because everybody had different levels of anxiety. It doesn't matter what you did in the company. And I personally engaged from the very first day in Slack messages to the entire company, and I kept it on every day. Sometimes you run out of what to say, but every evening, what I feel, what's going on in the company, other anecdotes. Sometimes my very poor sense of humor for making jokes or whatever it is. But every day, except for Saturday, Sunday. At some point over the beginning of the summer, I think around July 4th, I moved down to 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And that's what I'm doing now. So yesterday was a note, tomorrow's a note, and just keep on corresponding. And I got good feedback for that. They know that sometimes I run out of stories and run out of ideas, but that's what we try and do. And but no matter what, people have their personal lives going. I just try to prevent work from being stressed. So like we might be busy, we might have a work challenge, but it's work. At the end, I can't even say sometimes you reach the end of the day, you put your laptop closed because we are all the time, and sometimes it's at night, but a lot more flexibility. Like, don't be stressed over work. We have to fix a problem, but just focus on life and family, and I think that that just goes a long way, and that's important. But still, I still feel it's not the same. It's not the same. Some people can handle it more, being isolated and working from home. Some really need the human interaction in the office. A few did ask to go work. We have a couple of offices in the West Coast as well, in San Diego. So you gotta balance, but a lot of attention and patience.
So as people start to sort of repopulate offices, I mean, we're so happy to start seeing some of our members coming back. Is sort of are you thinking like a hybrid model for your team so they can kind of choose what the experience they want?
I know this is not in any sense a commercial for Launchpad, but I think the model is the right model. Certainly for a company, I know we are to some extent a larger company than most Launchpad members, but it fits well. You have the environment of collaboration and meeting people that are not in your company, and exchanging ideas, and obviously sometimes it's business, sometimes it's just great conversations and great people to meet and interact with. But we don't need, and we won't go back to any format of a 5 days a week, everybody with a desk type of office. So what we have at Launchpad, I think, represents a much better scenario, certainly for us, what we were doing sort of before,
Yeah.
just continue. But I would argue that also for others, and there'll be a lot of changes. I'm sure you're studying it closer, but certainly for us, that's the case. I mean, we want to keep the space and just figure out kind of fewer people every day, and probably not every day come in, but kind of the balance. First, we'll all have rules and official figures of how many people can interact, and you have a ruler measuring how far each one can be from. But
right.
Even later on, that's probably going to be the environment.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm curious where you're sort of getting at it, where the future of work is leading us. But it sounds like there's more empowerment of employees to sort of build a little bit of their own schedule. What works for you? It's not necessarily that the 9 to 5 goes away, but if you have things in your life, in a similar way to the messages that you're sending out on a very regular basis to your team, it's a very holistic way of thinking about your team. You want to get the best out of them, but you really want to support them no matter what they're going through. And people are going through so much with kids in school or not in school. Obviously just COVID and the illness itself and how that's impacting people. Some people have family members who are sick and have gotten sick, and just like there's just this sort of empathy as a CEO and as a leader that you want to get the best out of people, but you want to create an environment that is maybe has a little bit less structure than a traditional workplace has. Prior to all.
I would like to believe that a lot of what we're doing, not just us, everyone right now, is the way you should behave in general with business. We know it's not always the case, but the empathy, the care, the belief that the employee is not trying to fool you. They have a problem. We have extreme situations of maybe somebody taking advantage or something, but overall, that's the way to operate, and that's first and foremost. First, the actual health. If you are with COVID, or now for any other illness that's always been, but of course, COVID, or for yourself or for family, the flexibility, the understanding of other employees with their style, to how to work, to know, hey, a little less aggressive, because you just don't know what the other party's doing. Sometimes I'm privileged to some information, and luckily, nothing too bad, but just in general, that empathy and sensitivity. I also think we all learned, and some things I'll get to what we do, business wise, but we also all learned that we can do more remotely. We can have employees that just won't be able to get to the office every day because they live far away. So we'll arrange more. We're allowed to get employees that might be best suited for the company, but don't live next to an office. But now we'll not hesitate. A few that moved, even I'm sure all over the U.S. it happened, all over the world probably, but for us as well. We're a company of 120 people now, and we had people that moved, and we know they won't be near an office, whether it's Newark or whether it's in our San Diego, the two main anchors. So we're all balancing that, and a lot more prerogative for the employees. So I think it has to work both ways, and we'll feel it more.
Well, Ari, you sort of were hinting at it a little bit. Let's talk about phone.com and sort of the product itself or platform and where it's going. Obviously, as we mentioned in sort of the prior to the interview, we're customers, we're very happy with it. But you're doing a lot more than just sort of a virtual phone system.
Yeah.
You mentioned video conferencing. One of the things that we've actually talked about a little bit, and would be interested potentially in adopting, is that you've also introduced like virtual reception services. This in a new kind of flexible world where you never know where people are. So, you may not be at a landline, but it can, the same number can ring to your iPhone. You can be out on the go. Virtual reception services. There might not be anybody in your office because your office is closed and it rings there. But now at least people still like to be able to pick up the phone and talk to a human, not necessarily get into a phone tree. So just from a technology and platform standpoint, I'm curious about where you think, phone.com is going,
right.
In light of the way, companies are becoming more flexible and more virtual.
I think that to some extent there's an acceleration and an understanding of what we've been doing. Obviously, this is not, what we're doing is not new to the last 2-3 years, and we're certainly not the only ones. We happen to be, myself and Alon, the CTO, from the very early days. I say if Alon, our CTO, isn't in the room, I say I was one of the first in the industry, but he literally founded the first ever voice over IP company. So, we've been there from the beginning. We're not the only ones doing it, but the essence of having your laptop as your phone, certainly because of video conferencing, we all use the laptop more, but just even for audio calls, when you're going to come to Launchpad to work and you're getting your desk, it might not be your permanent desk. We may have lockers. You may add lockers into the way you set up offices, and we'll just catch a desk, and your laptop and your iPhone will be it. You'll do everything with it. So we do see a beginning of a change of sales of physical IP phones. People are not buying phones for their office, and for their home office, nobody's getting a desktop phone. We might still like the ergonomics of holding something, but really it's not there. And the capabilities and the tools and the layouts, the setups of what you can do with a laptop or a tablet or an iPhone or Android are all there. So that's the first thing is your handheld device or your laptop, kind of combination. That's all your communications wherever you are. So that's one major change. And the second thing is kind of relates to that, is that you can still build the phone, the office phone capability with extensions, with dial by name directories, whatever setup you want, and a ton more features, just like a more traditional office phone service. And whether you're a small company of 3, 4, 5, or a company of hundreds or thousands or more, it's just a lot more flexible, and it keeps the unity there. The other thing that you mentioned, the live receptionist and video, of course, it all goes together. The other thing that's changing more and more is that the phone or the communication service of whatever business is not standalone anymore. It's all connected and getting more and more connected to other applications and services, whether it's databases for marketing, for support, for finance, for HR. I'm sure a lot of people know the term CRM, right? Mm-hmm. So all these integrations, these abilities to connect for productivity are all happening, related or unrelated to COVID. It's it's just the way the advancements are. So that's where we are. That's what's happening. But I think the key is the comfort of your laptop and your iPhone being your main communications, not the physical phone, office phone. Yeah.
I mean, I think that untethering has had to accelerate during this time, but it was always the future, and it's now the future is finally here, right? And now it's so exciting because you are powering that future economy as a company, and we hope you will continue to power many of our Launchpad partners and members. So I think one of the things we want to talk about is, how do we unlock the power of phone.com in our other, we obviously have it in our other locations, but also for our members and companies that we have within LP Nation. So look out for that in the future, guys. I've got a question for you, though. I think something that we've been spending a lot of time talking about is that on-ramp to entrepreneurship, and how entrepreneurship can play, have the most powerful impact on wealth creation in the communities that we serve across the country. And you, as a serial entrepreneur, have been very passionate about supporting both locally and nationally within accelerators and mentorship and guidance, and just like countless hours and times with other entrepreneurs. Could you give some advice to our community here around, how to get started in entrepreneurship, how to think about hanging your shingle, how to take that big leap of faith, and some of the kind of similar guidance that you've given in your countless hours?
I think it is a combination. I like to say that you have to have it in you, but sometimes you have the bug. It's not the bug of starting a business, and that's what I always say. And entrepreneur is not necessarily starting a business. When you join something that's young and early, you are very much an entrepreneur. Again, if you're joining something that isn't well funded, you're very much a co-founder because you can't get a salary. So that's right. Really different. But in many cases, it's early stage. But it's, we talk about companies more associated with tech and funding and all. Then you can move from the big corporate America job to a small company and feel good. When I talk to people in corporate America, unless they're senior executives, I say, "What do? You work for company X?" I just almost mentally I say like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Right, because it's and it's not fair, but it's just the speed, the spirit. My first job in the U.S. out of Carnegie Mellon was with Bell Labs, and I remember that's what brought me to New Jersey. And I remember I couldn't even move a chair from one room to the other. Somebody shouted at me, "That's the union job." And this was literally at AT&T, Bell Labs, Lucent, whatever, 20 years ago. So you have to have that feeling and the capabilities and the atmosphere of working on it and feeling good and not being afraid of moving to that smaller organization. I also say that of course I work mainly with tech-oriented companies. Not every business needs to go out and raise venture capital money. We all hear about the great, amazing stories of people who raise venture and capital and of course are famous names or just whatever with the big exits and all. But there's so much good business where you could make a decent living and not raise money. I did mentor a guy, this is about a decade ago, that wanted me to help him with the business plan to raise money. And then I saw he's already generating revenue. And I told him after a few months of working with him, I said, like, you know what? Don't. Go just build your business. And I think a year or so later, he said, yeah, I'm generating already cash. And it's like, what's wrong with being successful, really successful at 30 and not owe anything to anybody? So there's many different ways of being an entrepreneur. Certainly, the environment at Launchpad is an example of that, of people with ideas, people that work, people that collaborate. I do also say that and I feel sometimes people feel somewhat protective of their own ideas of what they do, afraid it will be stolen or something. You gotta share. You gotta feel you're coming. Networking events are important. Sadly, it's done different now. This session is probably a networking event, one way or another. People connect. Right? We don't have the opportunity. It will come back, hopefully soon. But when you're there, don't. It's like I can't really tell you what I'm doing, but no, tell me what I'm doing because I may know exactly the person who connects you. You have to know the balance. People are not looking at stealing your ideas, and I think that's what fosters the kind of a snowball at whatever speed, right? You're connecting and you're creating more stuff, and there's a lot of resources, truly a lot of resources, and a lot of people that are willing to help. And you will know if somebody is just there and says they were willing to help, but not really, or others that will really make themselves available and help. And if you need capital is one thing. If you just need ideas, access, and you can do it on your own, it's another. There's a lot of ways to achieve it. You just have to be proactive and open up. You can't be a successful entrepreneur at any level, or even if you're taking the leap and joining somebody without being open, much more than kind of hiding in a corporate job.
Yeah. I mean, it's so right on, and it's also interesting because I think that you're hearing the generosity of spirit that entrepreneurs have, that you as a founder and a CEO have. You want people to be successful. You want to give your time to the extent you can. You're giving your time right now. Let me give you some advice. Let me make a connection for you. And as a young up and coming entrepreneur, it's incumbent on you to make it easy for somebody to help you, right? And if you say, hey, sign this NDA before I tell you my idea, Ari's not going to steal your idea. You're lucky to have 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes with Ari. Let him help you in the best way possible. So, but I love hearing, so many entrepreneurs have that generosity of spirit of, we all see it's clearly not a zero-sum game. We want everybody to get into this, right? Why would you want to go to corporate America instead of the,
like the guy from State Farm who called and said, "I've itemized all of your receipts."
Yeah.
Chris was like, "That's your job? You had to itemize our receipts? That's terrible."
Yeah.
Look, we are my dream. So far, it's working. I have to get to 1,000 people, right? I didn't think a few years ago that I'll be running an organization with 120 people, but I want everyone to feel still. You are an entrepreneur, even at phone.com, at whatever job you do. Look, some people, we have a call center, you have to work shifts, you have to work the hours, we have to man the phones. But even so, there's flexibility and there's openness. And I take calls, emails, chats, anybody, anyone. As a matter of fact, I will answer faster if it's an employee that reaches out to me that isn't one that reaches out to me on a regular basis. And I want that. I want that you're all contributing. Everybody has that freedom to do that. You're not just a 9 to 5 or whatever your shift is, or a developer close it left. That. And I say I just wish I can reach that point at 1,000 people if I'm lucky to get. But that's. So it's not even, it's the spirit. It's the spirit. I always say phone.com is like a 10-year-old now, 12-year-old startup, right? It's just the spirit. And I think for younger entrepreneurs, we'll share. You'll talk. Take the idea. You can just in one ear, out the other, because you know what's right for you, hopefully. Just listen and be open to it. I may be completely wrong in advice, but at least, listen and you'll hear it.
Right. There you go. I love that notion of openness, and in the spirit of customer development and openness, you live and breathe working at Launch Pad and your kind of experience in a flexible and shared workspace. What products would you design for us? And if we look at the future, what do we need to be building to meet the needs of our growing population and customers like you, Ari?
Well, it's funny. I mentioned half as a joke, but maybe not. I think probably need lockers because people, the desks will kind of shift around. Even if you're in a room, some people have open desks, and then maybe they already have a little lock if it's their desk. But in any case, I think the ability to you won't have your permanent desk with the picture of your family on it, whatever the setup is, just because of maybe partly because of COVID, and certainly for a while. But I think that's a change. We know it's also happening in some larger organizations where you don't really have your office and more of the private rooms for calls and meetings and stuff like that. So that's evolving. That's changing. Of course, can't really comment on legal health requirement of space and all that. That we'll all have to obey based on you're dealing with, like me. You have California, you have New Jersey. Every state has their own requirements. Every day something might change. You all have to comply. But That's different. And I do think that we really rely on the comfort of the space. Broadband. I mean, we couldn't do anything without broadband. Maybe 5G will make it a little easier, but it's still broadband. And you know, tons and tons of power outlets anywhere, and you know, the locations. I think that's you got it right. I mean, that's what people want to be when there's a good atmosphere and the good surrounding area. Again, this year is just not you know, we can't plan or not plan because of this year. I totally believe we'll you know, sooner or later we'll get over it, and we'll get back to having coffee or beer in a local coffee shop or local bar, and all the fun that comes with it. I truly believe it will happen. Technology wise, I think we're all evolving. I'm not you know, going to pretend about phone.com versus others, but we certainly have those capabilities that at least for Launchpad members will make it easier to use us versus somebody else. Both price and support. You can you go straight to the source if you have a problem. But so that's certainly you know, always our promise to you guys, and you know, we I think I took the space when I visited, and it was there wasn't even one door or one wall inside.
It was empty.
Yeah. And we know the history over the past 3 years or so, and I think this is sadly a setback, but we'll certainly you know, emerge, learn from it, and be stronger. That's my honest belief.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and we're grateful for your membership and your early adopter. You know, we use the term first believer here at Launchpad. You know, you really were in the early days of Newark. But
Newark, I think both you took a bet on Newark, not from being here, closer to New Jersey, and you know, we know there's a lot going on, and it's a lot of good stuff.
It's amazing.
The good news is that I think, you know, for both our businesses and just the way we view the world, directionally, sure, this year is a tough year, but directionally, the world is moving our way, right? That more people are adopting these tools, more people are adopting, right? The world is moving we're skating to where the puck is going. But yeah, I think, you know, even with different types of businesses, you know, the idea of working entrepreneurially, giving people more flexibility, understanding the intersection points between people's work and their lives, and the empathy that a CEO, a leader needs to have to sort of understand the whole person. I think that's where the world is going right now.
Yeah, and we see it's about personalities also. We have, you know, again, I'm a little more focused on tech, but there's so much more that almost everything involves. I'm not a technologist myself, right? But there's so much, you know, in art and entertainment, music, and social work, social justice, other nonprofits, whatever. So many areas. I mean, even in Launchpad, we see all of that. I mean, I love it. I sit in my room in calls all day. I come out, there's like beer and music and jazz and whatever, and arts, and the whole place is different. Once I came out, they started serving me platters with some event going on. I didn't even know. It's just that's a dynamic that you really should inspire almost anyone, you know, whatever you do. And I think that's important to just continue it, and you know, we'll get back to that.
Right, we will. Well, good.
All right.
Well, Ari, it's so great to see you. Thank you for joining us today. We will make sure we follow up with your social links, and, you know, of course, phone.com, as we mentioned, we're a very happy customer, and hopefully we'll bring, you know, more Launchpad members on board with you. But you know, most of all, it's just really great to see you and get to have
Good to connect. Good to connect. How's the baby?
Oh, she's gonna be 2 on Saturday.
Already 2. I can't believe it.
I know.
Yeah, it's been pretty neat. I mean, as you say, pandemic challenges aside, I think we've taken advantage of the time to actually just enjoy it, enjoy those moments with the baby and do all those kind of things, which is, if you're running on a treadmill, it's not so much you can do, but at least we can enjoy that special time with family. And so that's been great. 2 years old.
Same here. Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll let you
back to Fox and CNN to see what we missed in the last half hour.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Refresh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe we have a new president.
Woo! Do we? I don't know.
Let's see.
So let's get off.
Well, anyway, yeah. That was great to have Ari on. Really, always enjoy talking to him. And
best part about this is actually reconnecting with people, right?
Yeah, we love having that conversation with members and people on our network, and getting to see people who we're not able to see physically in this strange year. So speaking of somebody that we're excited to talk to, next week on Lifestyle Business, we're going to have technologist, filmmaker, storyteller, podcast host, and longtime member of the Launch Pad Nation, a good friend from New Orleans, Chris Bodie, to talk about his entrepreneurial journey and his recent endeavor and podcast, which I'm very excited about, called Becoming a Great Dad. So very excited to have Chris.
I'm looking forward to learning how to become a great dad.
Excited to have Chris on. He also is my favorite person to follow on Twitter during Saints games.
Oh.
Yeah.
Super fan
Chris.
All right. Well, next week we're going to get to see and welcome Chris, and I can't wait for that either. And let's sign off so we can go refresh our screen and see if we have some results.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll see you next Thursday.